So, Paulinus, Ambrose's first biographer, tells us about how it came to pass that Ambrose, at the time of the governor of one of the most important provinces of the Roman Empire, became the bishop of Milan. The year is 374, late November. After he had been trained in the liberal arts, he left Rome, and having been accepted to practice law before the prefecture of the Praetorium, he argued cases so brilliantly that he was chosen by the illustrious man Probus, then Praetorian prefect, to serve as his counsel. After this, he was invested as consularis, to rule the provinces of Liguria and Aemilia, and he came to Milan. Around the same time, with the death of Auxentius, the people were in a state of unrest over the search for a bishop. It was Ambrose's responsibility to quell the unrest. Lest the people of the city be endangered, he went to the church, and there he was speaking to the throng. The voice of a small child all at once made itself heard among the people. Ambrose for bishop. At the sound of this voice, the whole tone of the gathering changed, and they acclaimed Ambrose as their bishop. So it was that those who had previously been violently divided, because the Catholics and the Arians each wanted to best each other, and to have a bishop ordained for themselves, suddenly agreed, with remarkable and unbelievable harmony, on this one man. When he realized this, he left the church and had a tribunal set up for himself. He who was in fact soon to be bishop mounted it, and then, contrary to his own custom, ordered that individuals be put to torture. But even when he did this and people cried out, "Your sin be upon us." With that, returning to his house in anguish, he determined to become a philosopher. But he was to be Christ's true philosopher who, having disdained worldly display, would follow in the footsteps of those fishermen who gathered together peoples for Christ, not with fancy words, but with simple speech in the doctrine of the true faith, who were sent out without a satchel or a staff, and even converted philosophers themselves. When he was prevented from doing this, he had prostitutes come to him in the open, for no other reason that the people might see them and change their minds. But the people cried out all the more, "Your sin be upon us." When, however, he saw that he could not accomplish his plan, he decided to flee. He left the city in the middle of the night with Pavia as his destination. But in the morning he found himself at the so-called Roman gate of the city of Milan, for God prevented his flight. When he was found and taken into custody by the people, a report was sent to the most clement emperor, who was at the time was Valentinian. He was exceedingly glad when judges whom he had selected were sought for the episcopate. Probus, the prefect, rejoiced as well, because his words were being fulfilled in Ambrose. For, as the custom is, he had said to him as he was departing, when he was being given his orders, "Go and act not as a judge, but as a bishop." And so, while the report was pending, he decided to flee again, and for a while he hid on the property of a certain Leontius, who had the title of Clarissimus. But whenever the answer to the report came, he was handed over by this same Leontius, for the vicar had been commanded to see that the matter was settled. Since he wished to carry out what had been enjoined upon him by the edict in question, it was best for everyone to hand over the man if they wanted to safeguard both themselves and their property. And so he was handed over and brought to Milan, and when he understood God's will in his regard and that he could no longer resist it, he asked to be baptized by no one but a Catholic bishop, for he was wary of the perfidy of the Arians. Once he was baptized, he was said to have fulfilled all the ecclesiastical offices, and on the 8th day, with a great grace and to the joy of everyone, he was ordained bishop. A few years after his ordination, he went to the city of Rome, in other words, to his own home, and there in his own house he found the holy servant girl whom we previously mentioned, to whom he used to offer his hand along with his sister, just as he had left them. His mother had died meanwhile. And as she was kissing his hand, he said to her with a smile, "See, just as I told you, you are kissing the hand of a bishop."